He was the fast kid who couldn't get a game at Chelsea, the star who left a Champions League final in tears. If you think greatness is a straight line, Mohamed Salah's story will change your mind. He starts far from the spotlight, in Nagreg, a village in Egypt's Nile Delta. As a boy, he rides bus after bus to reach Cairo, sometimes leaving before sunrise and getting home long after dark. Coaches see a skinny teenager with quick feet and a bright smile, and they wonder if he can handle the knocks. He keeps coming back, day after day, because he thinks the ball can carry him somewhere his legs alone cannot. By his late teens, Salah earns a place with El Mokawaloon, Arab Contractors, a club that doesn't produce headlines but does produce professionals. He learns to track back, to run in behind, to play on the right, even though his mind is always drifting toward the goal. Then in 2012, Egyptian football stops after a stadium disaster, and the season ends in silence. For a young player looking up at the mountain, it feels like the ground has shifted under his feet. A friendly match gives him a door. Basel, the Swiss champions, arrange a game with Egypt's youth team. Salah starts on the bench, comes on at halftime, and runs with the urgency of someone who knows this could be his exit visa. He scores twice and creates more, the kind of half where a career changes shape. Within weeks, he's in Switzerland, learning a new language, playing in smaller stadiums, and discovering that when he runs at full speed, European defenders backpedal the same way everyone else does. At Basel, he becomes a problem for bigger clubs on European nights. He doesn't do many tricks. He just times his runs, slants them behind fullbacks, and finishes with a clipped calm that makes the net look like the end of a slide. In the Champions League, he punishes Chelsea home and away, and in England, they take notice. The message comes quickly. London is calling. Chelsea signed him in January 2014, with headlines about potential and pace. But in a squad packed with winners and guarded by a manager who values control, minutes are rare and mistakes are expensive. He's told to press in a certain way, to retreat in a straight line, to wait on the touchline until the game comes to him. Weeks turn to months, and he starts to feel like a name on a team sheet rather than a player with a future. The label forms like frost. Not strong enough, not ready. Another foreign flair player who can't crack the Premier League's code. In the quiet moments, that word shows up in the mirror. Failed. But Salah doesn't argue with it in the press. He packs a bag. Italy gives him a second chance and a second rhythm. At Fiorentina in 2015, he sprints into space and smiles again, scoring in purple, as if he'd just remembered where he'd left his game. A run from his own half against Juventus, gliding past lunges, taking the last touch early, is a statement that he doesn't just belong, he can bend matches on his own. The league is slower than England, but sharper in the details, and it suits him. Roma make him a cornerstone. Under a coach who wants him close to goal, Salah stops hugging the line and starts attacking the inside channel. He spends hours on repetition, the curved run at a defender's blind side, the first touch toward the far post, the finish low under the keeper's hand. He gets stronger through his core, harder to knock off balance. His numbers rise, but more than that, his choices get cleaner. Every sprint has a purpose now. By 2017, he's not the same player who left London with a suitcase and a quiet sense of anger. He's an inside forward who can break a match open with a single step, fit for a modern press and a fast transition. Liverpool come calling, and the old Chelsea reject headline makes one more lap around the block. It lasts until the first whistle blows. From the opening weeks at Anfield, Salah looks like a man who's tuned himself to a new frequency. He presses without sulking, receives on the half-turn, and attacks the gaps with a left foot that seems to find corners by habit. Goals arrive in runs of 2 and 3, and there's a new confidence in the way he looks at defenders, like he already knows how their hips will turn. The cop sings his name, and the story that once felt like a dead end suddenly looks like the start of a climb. But reinvention doesn't erase setbacks. It only teaches you what to do when they come, and they will come, even for the fastest man on the pitch. The first one arrives under the cold lights of Kiev. A Champions League final, everything he's built humming inside him, and then in one tangled moment with Sergio Ramos, his shoulder goes. He tries to stand it, tries to rotate the joint and will it back to life, but the pain wins. He walks off with tears he can't hide, the biggest match of his life dissolving behind him, while his teammates look over their shoulders for the player who isn't there. Real Madrid lift the trophy. He watches the ceremony with that dazed stare athletes get when the mind is still on the field, and the body has already left it. All summer, the shoulder becomes the headline, not the season that came before. He hears the question every injured forward hears. Will the power still be there when you cut? Will the burst still come when you need it most? Egypt calls, because of course they do. The World Cup doesn't wait for anyone. He pushes rehab faster than doctors would prefer, misses the opener, plays the next two, and scores twice. But time is a cruel opponent, and form never quite returns on command. Egypt lose all 3 games and fly home early, and suddenly the man who took a nation to Russia hears a chorus of disappointment instead of thanks. He returns to Liverpool in August, with the joint strapped and a new wariness in the way he falls. The goals don't come as easily, the touches look a shade heavy, and the one-season wonder line pops up on every panel show. Players pretend not to hear it, but they always do. He keeps running the same channels anyway, trusting that the body learns again what it once knew. Then, winter turns, and with it the mood. A hat-trick at Bournemouth comes with that familiar grin, and you can almost see the weight sliding off his shoulders, as if someone untied it. In December, against Napoli, he scores the kind of goal a player scores when he's done answering to doubt. He bodies a defender off, shields the ball, slips through an impossible angle, and passes it into the net with a calm that says he's stopped thinking about the shoulder and started thinking about where to put the ball. The European nights return, and with them the stakes that make or break stories. Liverpool travel to Barcelona for a semi-final and take a heavy defeat, 0-3, the kind that usually writes the ending before the second leg even starts. He takes a knock at Newcastle and is forced to miss the return at Anfield, watching from the stands in a black shirt with 3 words across the chest: never give up. The words look hopeful. What his teammates do with them feels impossible. 4-0. A corner taken quickly. A stadium shaking like a storm. He punches the air and laughs like a fan, and it's one of those rare moments in sport when you can see a man be 2 things at once: the superstar he is, and the boy who once dreamed of this on dusty pitches far away. A few weeks later in Madrid, he stands over a penalty in the first minute of a Champions League final, the kind of moment that sends the brain running through every ghost it's ever stored. He puts it high and hard into the net. No hesitation. No bargain with fate. The redemption doesn't cancel Kiev, but it answers it. From that night on, there's a different calm about him. The celebrations are big, but the stride is bigger. The medal sits in a case, and the scar sits on his shoulder, and both become part of the same story. The next target, the one the club and the city have wanted for 30 years, is painted on the wall in letters nobody has to say out loud. The league. Liverpool chase it like a machine. Through autumn and winter they press, break, and score with a kind of relentless clarity, and he turns into the sharp tip of a spear that never seems to dull. There's the run from halfway, and the finish past David De Gea that seals a late win over Manchester United. The sprint celebrated with a bare-chested roar in front of the Kop, and you can hear it echo in homes across the world. They're going to do it. And then the world stops. Stadiums empty. The parade plans fold back into drawers. When the trophy finally arrives, it's lifted in a quiet ground, with players looking out at rows of rent seats. For a team that plays off noise, it's the strangest kind of triumph. Pure joy with the volume turned down. But that too teaches something. You learn to celebrate without the roar, to locate pride in the work itself. The next season is a grind. And not just for him. Virgil van Dijk's knee goes in a derby. Then Gomez, then Matip, and the back line becomes a revolving door. The engine that ran hot for 2 years coughs. Anfield, once a fortress, records losses that would have felt unthinkable the year before. In that fog, people start pointing outward. They always look for the face on the poster when they want to explain a storm. He keeps doing what he can control. The numbers stay there. The runs are still timed to the breath of the game, and he scores on days when there isn't much else to cheer. There are rumors of Madrid and Barcelona, and fresh starts under different skies, the kind that roll through every transfer window until they feel like weather. He says little and plays every week. In May, with Champions League qualification hanging by a thread, a goalkeeper's header at West Brom turns hope back on, and the team stumbles, but doesn't fall. They limp over the line with top 4 secured, and he walks off on the final day with his head up, but his shoulders heavy from the year they've just dragged behind them. Setbacks don't always show up as one big hit. Sometimes they're just a season of smaller blows that keep you from breathing as easily as you did before. The lesson he takes is the same as it was after Kiev. Strip it back to the basics. Do what the day asks, and when clarity finally returns, go full speed again. He's about to need that rhythm more than ever, because the next blows won't arrive in club red. They'll come wrapped in the flag he loves, with a country's hope stitched to the sleeve. Summer turns his calendar to Russia, and the shoulder he hurt in Kyiv is still a question. Egypt haven't been here in decades, and their talisman is racing a clock his body doesn't care about. He sits out the opener, tries to stretch the joint back to trust for the second and third games, and even scores. But everybody can see it's a half version of him, more grimace than grin, and the group slicks away before anyone can find rhythm. There's noise around the camp he doesn't control. Where they're based, who drops in for photos, how the Federation moves him from bus to banquet as if the days aren't precious. He hates being a headline for anything other than goals. When Egypt are out, he carries the weight home on a shoulder that still aches, and he's left with that same simple plan he's used before. Fix the body, fix the basics, and start again. It doesn't take long for the spotlight to swing back. The Africa Cup of Nations is coming home in 2019, and with it comes expectations so heavy, it might as well be climate. Cairo's air hums with it. The team wins its group, wins again, and a nation settles in for a long run. Then South Africa land a punch no one saw coming, and in one flat night the hosts are out. A stadium that roared all month loses its voice in seconds. The coach goes, officials resign, and the postmortem starts before the buses even leave the car park. He takes his share of the blame, stars always do, but he also takes the lesson. The shirt multiplies everything. Pressure, pride, and pain. Leadership comes to him whether he wants it or not. He's named captain the following year, and the armband isn't just fabric, it's a promise. There are qualifiers to grind through, teammates who look to him, and a continent that won't give you anything without claw marks. He's not the loudest in the room, but people follow how he works, and that's the currency that spends in every camp. The next AFCON, delayed and moved by events bigger than football, arrives at the start of 2022. Egypt aren't the flashiest side there. They're stubborn, they bend without snapping, and their number 10 spends entire evenings chasing moments he might only get twice in 120 minutes. He equalizes against Morocco, drags tired legs forward again and again, and Egypt keeps surviving. Extra time, shootouts, rinse and repeat, until only one more night is left. The final is Senegal, and it feels like the sport has a cruel sense of humor. His Liverpool teammate is across the line, his friend and rival, and 90 minutes become a test of nerve. Chances are scarce, the goalkeepers are busy, and the scoreboard refuses to blink. It comes to penalties, and before his number is called, it's over. He walks off with the runner-up medal not as a souvenir. A month later, the draw writes a sequel no one in Egypt wanted. Senegal again, this time with a World Cup ticket as the prize. The first leg in Cairo gives Egypt a slender lead, the kind that calms no one. The second leg in Dakar is a wall of sound and light, lasers dancing on faces at every restart. In the shootout, he steps up first, tries to blot out the glare, and leans into the same routine he's trusted for years. The ball sails high. The stadium swallows the noise of it and spits back a roar. He talks to his teammates in the locker room when it's done. No screaming, no blaming, just an arm around shoulders and a steady voice saying what needs to be said about staying together. Then he walks into the night with the kind of disappointment that doesn't show on a scoreboard. He has to turn the page faster than he feels ready, because the games don't care about scars. He keeps showing up. That's his answer. He returns to camp when called, plays qualifiers in heat and on pitches that won't be shown in glossy montages, and keeps the focus narrow. One pass, one run, one kid in the stands who needs to see the captain clap the away end after a 1-0 win in September. Early 2024 brings another test wrapped in national colors. Egypt are at the Cup of Nations again, and the first act goes sideways. In the group stage, he feels a sharp pull in the back of his leg and knows in an instant it's trouble. He comes off, the cameras track his walk, and the next days become a tangle of scans, statements, and second-guessing from people who've never done a sprint in their lives. He makes a call with the medical staff to go fix what can be fixed, with a plan to come back if the team are still there at the end. From afar, he watches them draw 3 straight, then take it to penalties in the round of 16. The margin is a bad heartbeat again. They're out by a single kick, and the only thing heavier than the silence is the knowledge that he couldn't help. He takes heat for leaving, praise for trying to return, and he files both in the same drawer marked noise. What he does when he gets back to his club is quietly familiar. Rehab is boring and unforgiving. You live on a mat, counting to 10 the right way 100 times. You relearn angles, you trust a hamstring the way you rebuild trust with a friend. He ticks off sessions, wins tiny private battles in a training ground gym, and refuses to let an injury write a fuller sentence than it deserves. Through it all, the frame of his national story doesn't crack. The trophies he's missed in that shirt don't make him smaller. If anything, they've added edges. He treats finals like classrooms, defeats like maps, and every time the plane descends into Cairo, he puts his phone away and looks out the window. The same streets, the same fields. There are players for whom a country is a place you leave. For him, it's a place you carry. He has lost with Egypt in ways that stay with a man, and he has learned to play with those memories without letting them steer the car. The next time a whistle blows and a flag rises before a match, he'll jog out like he always does. Not lighter, not heavier, just ready, again, to build something from the ground up. And at the edge of that commitment, another change is waiting. Club life is shifting, new ideas are coming, and the rhythm he's built over a decade is about to change its beat. The lesson from these years with Egypt will matter more than ever now. Don't argue with the storm. Adjust your sails, keep your hands steady, and find a new way forward when the old way stops working. The first sign of the shift is quiet. It isn't a headline, not even a quote. It's a look on the touchline, a longer pause in the dressing room, a few new faces at the training ground, and the knowledge that the man who built this era is saying goodbye. Seasons don't always turn with a bang. Sometimes they turn with a handshake and a plan you can't quite see yet. For a player who built his first life in England under one manager's rhythm, that's a jolt. You know the drills by heart. You can sense a press before it starts. You've lived inside the same vocabulary for years. Now, the sentences change. A new coach, a new set of patterns, a different way to measure the same 90 minutes. He's not 23 anymore, not the winger with a suitcase and a point to prove. He's a senior pro with a locker full of medals and a body that's felt hamstrings tighten in cold months and shoulders scream in big finals. The easy choice would be to dig in, insist on the old runs, the old freedom, the old map that led to glory. But he's been around long enough to know maps go out of date. So he steps into preseason with a pen in his pocket. He listens. The early sessions are heavy on detail. Where to stand in the first phase, how to show a defender one way and break the other, when to choose the simple wall pass instead of the spin and sprint. It sounds dry from the outside, but inside that work is where a career gets extended or starts to fray. There's pride to manage too. Cameras catch a flash of anger in a spring match, a hand waved, words you don't want to say while the whole world is watching. That moment could become a crack that widens, or it can be just that, a moment. In the days that follow, he goes back to the basics he trusts. Routine, apology where it's due, the next match, the next run. Offers float in from outside, money that could set up 10 generations, leagues where defenders back away and you can score for fun by February. He looks at it because you have to look at it. But when the bus leaves Melwood for the next friendly, he's on it. There's something left to do here, and he doesn't want to end the chapter with a comma. Under the new regime, his job isn't to sprint at the line for 90 minutes anymore. The game plan asks him to pause in the half space, hold the ball until the fullback flies, pick the cutback instead of the near-post rocket. He starts to measure a good day not only in goals, but in the way young forwards make their runs off his shoulder, the way a midfielder trusts him to keep possession under a press. The numbers on the fitness sheet change too. Fewer all-out sprints on Wednesdays, more targeted strength work for that left leg, more recovery minutes with the boots off and the ice on. He plays fewer minutes in some weeks and learns not to read panic in that. Every minute he does play has to count. There are small missteps early on, like there always are when you learn a new dance. He drifts wide when the plan wants him inside. He goes to feet when the coach is calling for a run in behind. But there's something steady underneath. He's not clinging to what he was at 26. He's building a version that can win a match at 32 without burning the house down. On the training pitch, he becomes a better talker. He takes 5 seconds with a kid from the academy and shows him how to shape a body to invite a foul without drawing a card. He pulls a young winger aside after a drill and tells him gently that there's a right time to shoot and it isn't every time you see daylight. He didn't have this voice when he arrived. He has it now. International breaks still carry weight. Egypt calls and he answers. but he listens to the medical team in ways younger Salah might not have. If a tendon whispers instead of shouts, he's honest about it.